not to say that it won't at some point. So you can see the area of circulation that we're watching in the orange area of rotation, that little arrow that's spinning around is showing that circulation that is occurring now. So again, not a confirmed tornado yet, but it is rotating. And of course, we're in direct communication with the National Weather Service, and so we're looking at the radar just like they are. We're interpreting it the same way they are. And there is a funnel cloud report. The National Weather Service did report a funnel cloud right along the county line with Baltimore and Harford County with this particular storm. As right now it's centered just to the north and east of Perry Hall. So around Glen Arm and Perry Hall is where we're seeing that circulation right now. And again, the National Weather Service did report a funnel cloud right on the county line. So what we'll do is we'll go back to reflectivity so you can see where the rain's occurring. One other thing I want to point out with this storm is it's producing a lot of rain. So this thing is going to just sit over the same area and produce significant amounts of rain. We do have a flood watch in effect until 11 o'clock tonight for a lot of this area. So this is where we're expecting some heavy rainfall that could cause some brief flash flooding. But immediate concern is the tornado warning that continues for parts of Baltimore as well as Harford County. This does not include Baltimore City. So we'll kind of widen out here. You can see Baltimore City in the lower left part of your screen. You can see Abingdon. The threat is to your west. Falston, the area of concern is to your south. But this thing is really wrapped up. This is a very impressive looking storm just based on the radar signature, how it kind of has that fishhook look to it. And like I said, it's latched onto a boundary there. And sometimes what these storms will do is they'll grab onto that boundary. That boundary indicates air that is spinning, and then it will tilt it into the vertical, and it starts spinning even faster, and sometimes you can get a tornado developing out of it. Another thing we can do is we can kind of localize the area of shear, and right now we're not seeing it with our shear product, but there it is right there. You can see that little area of tan that has popped up, and if you look at the scale at the top of your screen, it's a fairly weak circulation, but it is existing, and the thing is, I think probably what will happen is, given the fact that the storm is stationary, I do think that it'll probably end up choking itself out. Meaning that a lot of times with these storms, what they'll do is they need a constant flow of warm, humid air into the storm. And when these storms rain themselves out, they'll eventually choke themselves off by the rain kind of pushing out from the bottom of the storm and then pushing outward. It basically cuts off its inflow. So I do think that eventually this warning will likely, of course, either be canceled or allowed to expire. But the circulation with these typically, especially with a brief rotation like this. Usually with storms that are stationary, the circulations don't last that long, so we don't expect this really to be a situation that's going to be lasting for several hours. But it's one isolated storm, and if you notice in the last few frames here how the area of rotation is still there, but it's kind of filled in a little bit. So we'll go back over to our other radar here, and you can see the circulation continues here across parts of Baltimore as well as Harford County. So again, the rotation in the vicinity of Perry Hall, and it is not moving. It is a stationary storm between Perry Hall and Glen Arm, right where you see the reds and greens touching each other. So again, this is what we call our storm relative velocity product, and basically storm relative velocity, basically the radar being able to detect which way the raindrops are moving in the storm. And right now we're tapping into the Sterling radar, which means that that's Sterling, Virginia, that is. So the green showing winds blowing toward the radar, which would be to the south and west, and then winds blowing away from the radar down to the Perry Hall area. And you can clearly see with the counterclockwise spin there, with the arrow going to the left and then the bottom arrow going to the right, that's where the radar has detected that possible circulation, and the Weather Service decided to go ahead and pull a tornado warning on that, given the fact that we did get a report of a funnel cloud. And sometimes, of course, you can get that situation where, again, these storms will kind of latch onto a boundary, which more than likely is probably the bay breeze that it's latched onto. And sometimes you can get an area of rotation with that as it latches onto that boundary. But notice the storm is not moving. And what I'll do is I'll look at some of the rainfall rates here, or rainfall totals, I should say, over the last hour or so, and we'll go ahead and look at that. That's going to be the other hazard with this particular storm, is the heavy rainfall. And this should populate here in just a second. But you can see this is within the last hour how much rainfall has occurred in this area. So I do expect a flood warning or flash flood warning to be issued for this area momentarily, given the fact that the rainfall rates are so excessive, and we've likely seen upwards of about 2 to 3 inches of rainfall here in a very short period of time. So I do expect the flood threat to gradually increase in this area as we go into the next couple of hours, particularly if this storm maintains its intensity. So again, heavy rainfall and the threat for a tornado. Right now, it looks like that circulation is still there, but it's not nearly as pronounced as it was, but we'll continue to watch it nonetheless. And again, the tornado warning remains in effect here until 5:30. Other storms across the state, there's really, to be honest with you, not much going on right now, but we do expect that to change as the evening goes on. The best threat for storms today is going to be west of I-95, and we're tracking some other storms out here in western Maryland, and we're going to be watching to see those organized this evening. I think those will be primarily a heavy rain, lightning, and gusty wind threat here through sunset. But notice how this storm is not moving. It just blew up right there on the county line with Harford and Baltimore County, right just to the east of Perry Hall, and is sitting in that same spot. Tremendous lightning occurring with this right now. There's still that threat for a possible tornado in this particular area, but I really think that over time, the heavy rainfall and the flood threat is going to start taking over as the more significant threat. And you can kind of see what we're looking at here is the rainfall rate, or how quickly the rain is falling in a particular area. And when you start seeing these reds and pinks and purples here, that indicates very heavy rainfall occurring in a short period of time, and that heightens the threat for flash flooding in these particular areas. So if you're in Joppatown, the Dunwood area, north of Joppa, north of Upper Falls, anywhere really along and north of I-95 in this particular area, Pleasant Hills, you're going to be seeing some heavier downpours continuing here for at least the next half hour or so, as again, this storm is not moving at all. Again, the Washington Weather Service, in case you're just joining us, the National Weather Service has issued a tornado warning for parts of Baltimore and Harford County. This is mainly for the far southeastern portions of Baltimore County, back towards southwestern sections of Harford County. So Falston, you are not in the tornado warning. Pleasant Hills, you are, but the circulation is just off to your south. Perry Hall, the circulation here in the vicinity, and it hasn't moved. And that's kind of what's unique about this particular storm, is that usually these things just kind of move along and they go on about their business. But that's not the case with this one. It's pretty much staying in the same spot. Now, if you look at this loop, I want to point out how you see the green there, but notice the red isn't as bright and pronounced as it was, which is indicating to me that it looks like the rotation is trying to unwind a little bit, or it's weakening. So we'll continue to monitor this as it's pretty much sitting in the same spot. But as I was saying earlier, a lot of times with these storms that pretty much sit in the same area, they end up choking themselves off because of all the rain-cooled air that ends up coming out of the storm. We call that, it cuts off its inflow. Basically, think of it like of course, you have to breathe, and then think of it like somebody putting their hand over your mouth and you're not able to breathe anymore. That's kind of what's happening with this storm. It's choking itself off. So typically what will happen is you'll get a tornado warning with this. The rotation will weaken, but it will continue to dump heavy amounts of rain in a very short period of time. So really, to be honest with you, I don't expect the threat to last much longer, but we just want you to be safe. If you're in the vicinity of Perry Hall, Upper Falls, or Darrell Gardens in that area, Perry Hall Manor, and areas west of Joppatown, really anywhere along Route 1, out towards areas north of Route 40, and Highway 7 there, and really anywhere in that area of rotation maintains itself, but we do expect it to again, winding down. But then you see the rotation right there. Looks like it is in the vicinity of Mount Vista Road. So if you're familiar with that area east of Perry Hall Manor, around Sunshine Avenue, Jerusalem Road, that's where the circulation is right now. Bradshaw Road, heading up towards Route 1, that's where the rotation is occurring right now with that possible area of rotation that could produce a tornado at any time. The rotation's still there, but right now we're not getting any indications that it's going to put one down. And again, we have constant communication with the National Weather Service, so we can basically look and see what they're looking at. Of course, we as meteorologists can interpret the radar ourselves, but our partners over at the Weather Service who issue these warnings, we can also kind of get some insight of what they're looking at as well. And right now, we're not getting any confirmation other than the funnel cloud report that came in just a little bit before 5 o'clock this evening. But again, in case you're not familiar with this velocity problem, we call this storm relative velocity. And what we look at with this product is we look for green and red touching each other. You see how they touch each other right there? What's happening here is in the green, you have winds that are blowing towards and away from the radar. So green is basically showing winds blowing towards the radar site. Think of the radar site in the left, off the screen to the left. So it's down in Northern Virginia at the Weather Service office in Sterling. Now, when the winds blow away from the radar, it shows up as red, and that's what you're seeing right here. And if you were kind of take all this and create a circle with it, it's a counterclockwise spin. So the radar is able to look and see which way the raindrops are moving, and it can determine if there's spin, and that's what flagged. And the National Weather Service was able to say, hey, we think that potentially we could have some rotation there. And, of course, they got the funnel cloud report, and they decided to go ahead and put on the tornado warning there until 5:30. Notice how it's kind of filling in there. Earlier, it kind of had that hook appearance, and I'll kind of go back and show you. And what we'll do is we've actually tapped in the Mount Holly radar, or the Dover radar. So we'll show you how. Notice how that hook occurred. You see how that hook kind of curled around there? That right there is the rotation. Now, notice how it just kind of filled in. So I think what's happening is it's eventually going to be choking itself off as the area of rotation does what we call occluding, or basically cuts off the inflow. The inflow is basically the air that moves into the storm that feeds it. And whenever you cut off that energy source, you'll end up weakening the storm. So I think this is going to be pretty much a heavy rain threat once the tornado warning expires. And again, we'll go back to the rainfall rates here, and this is going to be the theme with a lot of these storms this evening. And I do expect some more to kind of move into the area, especially towards and just after sunset. The atmosphere is so humid. If you've been outside today, been outside the past couple of days, you just know how humid it is. The storms absolutely love that, and they will tap into it and think of it like a sponge, the wet soaking sponge, and you squeeze all that moisture out. These storms will tap into that very, very high moisture content in the atmosphere and produce very heavy rainfall in a short period of time. So what we'll do is we'll call it querying, or we'll take a sample of what kind of rainfall rates we're looking at. And these are inch to 2 inch per hour rainfall rates. And the thing about this storm that's unique is that it's not moving. So we're looking at the potential for a significant flood threat. And it looks like the Weather Service has issued a flash flood warning for this particular storm. This goes until 8:15. And based on the latest information, it says 1 to 3 inches of rainfall has occurred, and we just saw that with our 1 hour rainfall estimates. And the rainfall rates are expected to be 1.5 to 3 inches per hour. So 1.5 to 3 inch per hour rainfall rates. That's tropical type rainfall rates, and this could lead to a significant flooding situation. So I want to give you a heads up. If you're anywhere where this storm is occurring right now, it's not moving. That would include Edgewood. That would also include Abingdon, back towards Joppa, Pleasant Hills. You guys in White Marsh look like you're okay for the time being. It's just to your north. Perry Hall is just off to your north and east, but it kind of gives you an idea of basically the extent of the flooding that could occur with this particular storm. But again, it's not moving at all, still stationary, and we expect an additional 1 to 2, maybe 3 inches of rainfall to occur before this storm decides to dissipate. So again, we still have the tornado warning that continues. We'll go ahead and take a look at velocity to see where the circulation is right now, and it's still there. It's weak, and notice, as I mentioned earlier, the reds are not nearly as bright as they were, but we still have some greens up here. So we basically look again for the greens and the reds to touch each other for that area of rotation. It kind of goes around just like this. So we've got that broad area of circulation in the vicinity of Perry Hall Manor and Fork. So it's just north of Perry Hall right now, and it's not moving. So it's kind of embedded in the rain. So if there's going to be a tornado popping out of this, you won't be able to see it because it's embedded in rain. Another product we can look at that kind of localizes thing is our shear product. And earlier we were looking at some of those tan colors. If you look at the scale at the top of your screen, we had some yellows and some tans showing up, indicating there was some circulation there. But even our shear product is not even picking up on it at the present time. But that doesn't mean that it's not there. It's just not nearly as strong as it was. So as far as Baltimore City is concerned, not much going on. It's still sunny. It's still hot and humid here, but we're still monitoring the tornadic storm now that the Weather Service has put a tornado warning on here for parts of Hartford as well as southeastern Baltimore County. And again, that goes until 5:30, and we're continuing to monitor what the National Weather Service is saying, and right now we're not getting any indication right now that we're not getting indication of anything actually being confirmed. Looking at some of our dot cams here, you can see this on Maryland 24, and you get the idea of basically just how heavy the rainfall is. It's restricting the visibilities, and so if you're traveling anywhere in this particular area, I mean, especially areas north of I-95, you're going to be running into blinding rainfall. So again, really the thing you need to do with this particular storm, if you don't have to get out in it, just go ahead and stay home. I do expect the storm to eventually weaken, but it may take a little while with some of the heavier rain that is occurring right now. We're going to have some areas of flooding. So even if you head out after the storm, there are probably going to be areas of high water. So that's another thing you need to be mindful of. And it looks like they've dropped the severe thunderstorm warning. So right now, the tornado warning is the only thing, as well as the flash flood warning, that remains in effect. Again, if you are in the tornado warning, what you want to do is go to your interior room on the lowest floor of your home or business. So what really the best practice is to get below ground. In this situation, of course, if you don't have anywhere below ground, you get to an interior room. Put as many walls between you and the outside as possible. One of those crawl spaces under the basement stairs is a good spot. An interior bathroom. Get into the bathtub. Cover yourself with pillows and blankets. Also wear something like a bicycle helmet, or perhaps a bicycle helmet or a baseball helmet, to prevent yourself from being injured by flying debris. That is the number one reason why people end up getting killed in tornadoes, is as a result of flying debris causing head injuries. So you want to be careful of that. Right now, the area of rotation is just south of Joppa, so we'll put circulation right now, or at least the storm relative velocity actually is just west of Joppa, I should say, right here where you see the pinks and the greens touching each other. So again, we've got winds blowing outbound or away from the radar, and then we have winds blowing towards the radar in the light green. And again, the circulation's still there, but it's not quite as strong as it was. We will go ahead and loop over the past hour, and you can kind of see how the greens were a little brighter and the reds were a little more vibrant earlier, but now it kind of looks more like a gray red, if you will. And I'll go ahead and move this up a little bit so you can see it looks like the banner is covering it. But right around Perry Hall and just to the north and east is where we have that area of rotation right now, near Mount Vista. So it's really between Mount Vista and Perry Hall, tracking to the north and east. If we were to get down to street level, Mount Vista Road, Sunshine Avenue, Jerusalem Road, circulation is right in that vicinity, along and just west of Route 1 there. And it looks like it's making a slow drift off to the north and east, but really the storm is not moving, and that's certainly causing some issues. And it still has that kidney bean shape to it. So what I'll do is I'll draw so you can kind of see what we're looking at. Notice how it looks like a little kidney bean. The inflow of the air that being sucked into the storm creates this little indention right here. We call that inflow. It's an inflow notch. And there is still an area of rotation there, and that's one of the ways that we can kind of say that, yeah, it's still rotating, it's still spinning, but it's not nearly as pronounced as it was. And, of course, the area of rotation would be back here where we have this potential hook signature right in this vicinity right there. So that's where the rain basically is being pulled around the backside of the rotation and then wrapped back into the storm, and it creates that hook shape. But from a radar presentation standpoint, it looks like it's not nearly as impressive as it was, but they still have the tornado warning on it. We've not got an update from the Weather Service on whether or not this is going to be extended, but I think more than likely, given the fact that we're about 12 minutes from the expiration of this warning, they'll probably go ahead and just allow it to expire. If not, if the circulation does ramp up, they'll definitely reissue it. But the way it looks now, the rotation not nearly as strong as it was. We'll go back to our shear product to see if we've got anything there that we're seeing. And right now, not really seeing anything that stands out. And, of course, we also look at our tornado debris product. This is what's called correlation coefficient. And what it can do is it can tell the difference between rain and stuff being thrown up in the air by a possible tornado. And right now we're not seeing any indication that there is a tornado on the ground, at least not at this point. But we will continue to monitor it. Let's see, I'm going to go ahead and loop this back and forth. No, I'm not really seeing anything right now that stands out. So again, the tornado warning remains in effect for extreme southeastern Harford County, Baltimore County, and southwestern Harford County. Again, this is going to be west of Abingdon, south of Pleasant Hills, and east of Perry Hall. That's where the area of rotation is right now. And this is really the only storm. This is one that popped up in this area, and it happened to latch into what I believe was the bay breeze. You get that cool air that comes in off the bay, and gives you definitely, it feels refreshing when it happens. But a lot of times those boundaries can kind of set up, and if a storm interacts with it, there's wind shear along that boundary, and it can tap into that and sometimes spin it up into a tornado. But notice how the storm has not moved. This is going back the last hour, and notice how the storm has not moved from that spot. And that is creating a significant potential for flooding in this area. We've already got the flash flood warning in effect here for parts of Baltimore as well as Harford County. And I think really what we're going to see is a transition over to a heavy rain flooding threat. If you happen to encounter water that is high, the last thing you want to do is try to drive through it. I know you're trying to get where you're going, but the last thing you need to do is drive through water that is covering the roadway. It only takes about a foot of water to push a car off the road, and water is a lot more powerful than you probably think. So it's very difficult to judge the depth of the water when you're approaching it, and you don't want to take that chance and drive through it and end up in a pretty bad situation. We definitely want you to be safe. These rainfall rates here running anywhere from about 1 inch to 1.75 inches per hour. So significant rainfall rates occurring right now with this particular storm. They don't look nearly as high as they were. I mean, 1 inch to 1.5 inches per hour is pretty impressive, but we were getting some indications that we were looking at over 2 inch per hour rainfall rates with this storm. So I think what is happening is we're seeing the process of this storm gradually choking itself off, because it's pretty much sat in the same spot. It's what we call a pulse storm, is that they pulse up and then they diminish, and sometimes you can get a new one that pops up and then it diminishes. So I think they're going to probably go ahead and allow this tornado warning to expire at 5:30. So we're going to go on here for about another 9 minutes, and then I'll send it over to Denise, and we'll see what they end up doing. Again, we're in direct communication with the National Weather Service, and right now we're not getting indications that they're going to extend the warning, and we have not gotten any reports outside of the funnel cloud report that was indicated along the county line, which was about 3 minutes before 5 o'clock. But really, this is just dumping a lot of rain over this same area. And this storm has been sitting over this spot for a little over an hour and has produced significant rainfall. Speaking of which, let's go ahead and look at the 1 hour rainfall estimates. These are Doppler radar estimates of rainfall in this particular area. And look at that. We're looking at the possibility here of possibly, looks like, in excess of 3 inches in this particular area. So I'll go ahead and query this spot. And it looks like right now we're talking about, about 3 inches in this particular area. So pretty significant rainfall rates occurring with this particular storm. And this is over the past hour. And, you get 3 inches in 1 hour. And if it sits over the same spot for another half hour or so, oh, my goodness. You're looking at possibly maybe up to 5 inches in a 2 hour period. That's going to cause significant flash flooding in this particular area. We haven't gotten any reports right now as far as any flash flooding occurring, but I'm pretty sure that it is occurring, and the water is fairly high in a lot of these areas as the storm, again, has not moved. So, again, Upper Falls, Fork, down to Perry Hall Manor, out towards Joppatown, Pleasant Hills, Joppa, all these areas west of Abingdon, seeing this storm with heavy rainfall. You're getting heavy rainfall over in the Edgewood and Abingdon areas, but it's not nearly as heavy as is occurring just off to your west. So some pretty significant rainfall occurring with this particular storm right now. So again, we're still monitoring that tornado warning that remains in effect here. That tornado warning continues until 5:30, so about another 7 minutes or so with this particular storm that has popped up right over, it's basically sitting right at the top of Kingsville right now. So pretty decent rainfall rates, Upper Falls, the Marywood area. Again, this storm is producing a lot of lightning and heavy rainfall. We'll go back to storm relative velocity to see what the circulation is doing right now. And right now it looks like the area of rotation is weakening. So I do expect them to go ahead and allow this to expire. It looks like maybe it's drifted northward a little bit. It's more so up towards Fork and Pleasant Hills and approaching the Falston area, but it's not nearly as impressive as it was. And I'll go ahead and circle it for you so you can see what I'm looking at. And it's right here in this particular area, just to the west of Pleasant Hills, where you see the light reds and the greens. that area that's kind of coupled together. We call it a velocity couplet. And whenever you get that particular type of signature on radar, a lot of times that can give you an indication that there is some rotation there. And we look for the brighter colors. The brighter the colors are, the stronger their area of rotation is. And it looks like as this one continues to drift off towards the north, we are continuing to monitor it as it crosses over into Harford County. So right now it looks like at least the threat for a tornado is beginning to drift out of Baltimore County and into the areas around, looks like areas just south of Falston and around Pleasant Hills. But I do think, again, they're going to allow this tornado warning to expire here shortly. We're still, again, looking at the National Weather Service, see if they're going to do anything or if they've gotten any reports in, and we're not seeing that right now. So this is really the only game in town, and I'll widen the view out here so our folks across the Eastern Shore into Baltimore County so we can see what's going on right now. And you can see there are some other storms that are trying to pop up right now in Howard County. So we'll go out to Howard County and show you what's popping up there. We'll have to monitor these for intensification. I don't think there'll be a tornado threat with these, but you get the idea that we're going to have more storms popping up throughout the evening hours, and these storms will be capable of gusty winds, frequent lightning, and very heavy rainfall. Looks like this storm here has popped up right around, looks like west of West Friendship in the Lisbon area, and this is going to be moving up into Carroll County here shortly. And then it looks like another one's popped up near Dayton, north of the Triadelphia Reservoir. This is going to be tracking northward towards Interstate 70. Right now, no lightning with it, but it does look like it is getting some indications that it does want to intensify. But really the only game in town as far as a severe storm is this one here that's been very persistent. It latched onto that Bay Breeze boundary, and it does not move, and it's still dumping a lot of rainfall. Notice that the red colors here are not nearly as bright. So if we go back here and see how dark the red colors were when it was really starting to get going, and right in that, and you saw some pinks in there. Those some very heavy rainfall rates, and we're not really seeing that now. You're starting to see a little bit more yellow and more orange. And those rainfall rates are at least are not as high as they were, but they're still running about an inch to an inch and a half per hour. And we'll go ahead and put that product back on so you can see the areas that are being affected by this now. And you can see that the rainfall rates right now are running, looks like upwards of about an inch to 2 inches per hour. And we'll go ahead and query some of these numbers. So I'll go ahead and see what we're looking at here. We're looking at rainfall rates of about an inch to 3/4 per hour. And this is basically where near Jerusalem Road is where we're seeing some of the heavier rainfall rates, where you see these little purple colors. That is what we're seeing right now. But it looks like, let's see what they still have the tornado warning in effect there. And as long as that storm continues to latch onto that boundary, we're still going to see that possibility of a tornado there. But again, it looks like the rotation, looks like maybe another one has tried to develop. That first one looked like it moved off to the north and east, and then it looks like another one has tried to develop here. What I'm looking at is this, what you see kind of hanging off on the back here, and I'll use my telestration tool so you can kind of see that. It looks like right back here looks like maybe something else trying to get wrapped up there. So based on that co-located with the velocity data, and again you can see that area of rotation, which this looks to be a new one from the one that we were looking at earlier. That one earlier looks like it kind of drifted off to the north and east, and then we've got another one that is tried to develop to the south and west. So we'll see what ends up happening with this particular storm as we go through time, and see if they go ahead and issue another tornado warning on it. But right now, it looks like the area of rotation that we were monitoring is not nearly as impressive as it was. And from what I can understand, and from what I can tell, looks like that the tornado warning has been dropped. But I do want to make sure it's going to be expiring in 2 minutes anyway. But I do think that the threat for a tornado, at least temporarily, has started to wind down, but we're still watching that possibility of very heavy rainfall with this storm that could produce an additional 1 to 2 inches on top of the 2 to 3 that we've already seen across sections of Baltimore County as well as Harford County. But again, we'll watch these storms here in Howard County. Out to the west, they're not severe yet, but they're getting organized, so we'll watch those as they begin to pop up. But this storm here in Baltimore as well as Harford County kind of is maintaining itself, and it is not showing any signs of at least the rain stopping, but we'll see if the area of rotation continues with this particular storm as we go through time. Denise, I don't know if you have anything to add, but I was going to get it, send it back over to you, because right now it looks like they're going to go ahead and allow that warning to expire at 5:30.
All right. Thank you very much, Derek. We are going to take a very short break, and we're going to be back with more news right after that break. So do stay with us.